This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is June 23rd, 2025. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, is it hot enough for you out there? I welcome a hot summer. Okay, so let's get into this. I had actually planned a different podcast today, but I felt compelled to talk about the U.S. federal government policy on the president's authority to order military actions. Now, this subject is as old as the country is, and when I'm going through the podcast today, I will point out a couple of things that probably we have forgotten of a president ordering actions. So, what I want to talk about is the administration's framing of the actions, the constitutional authority of the president, and then the press and past presidents' decisions. So, start with the framing of the actions. As everyone knows now, there was an military strike on the government of Iran's nuclear program. Now, this had been brewing for several years that the United States, and this is the official policy from the United States with the Trump administration, that they felt like that they had the raw materials at these sites to put together a nuclear weapon. Now remember that the Iranians said that they were only interested in nuclear power. Okay, well, the administration, based on intelligence, did not feel the same way. So I had to be careful how I say things because when I was in the military, I was privy to information as well that I signed a non disclosure agreement about. So, and everything that I'm about to say is public knowledge. So, if you are building nuclear power plants, okay, fine. Then why do you need three bunkers basically buried underground that you are refining materials to make bombs? So if what they said was true, then why would they need to put these bunkers so far underground? Now, it could be because of leakage for the materials that they were using. Don't know. Now, if you have nuclear power, why didn't any of the power go off in Iran? Because that would have been part of the operation in the bunker, and that would have disrupted, because there's a lot to nuclear power, and you can look it up if you're using it as a power source to generate power for homes, businesses, things of that nature. So, and no one even asked that question about, well, so the power's off in Iran now. Okay, so let's talk about the constitutional authority of the president. And I want to tie that back into the framing of the actions. So, the president, as commander in chief, is over the Army, Navy, United States, and the militia when they are federalized. And again, I had to dig through a lot of posturing from the AI and also from different authors that were talking about the power of the president. Now, there's something called the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which basically says that It ensures Congress and the president share the power to commit the United States to armed conflict. It requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of introducing U.S. forces into hostilities. Okay. Then we've got the framing of that. So the president can order military actions. And the reason that I think that that is important is I think that the framers wanted one person to be able to make the decision, and this decision should come from the person who the people elected to be president. Now, the framing of the actions, when we blend that with me saying, okay, well, the constitutional authority says that the person in the seat can do it. So they notified Congress, but they're only required to notify them within 48 hours of the action, according to the War Powers Resolution Act. Because don't you wonder why the administration executed the actions in a certain fashion? First of all, the president said a couple of weeks ago that they were thinking about action. Okay, so that was everybody's notification that they might do it. Now, the reason that I mention this is the Congress, the U.S. Congress, House of Representatives, and the Senate are very, very partisan. And keeping things a secret in Washington has gotten very tough, right? Because we don't want to tip off our adversaries to what we're going to do. Now there's other examples of that too that I won't go into because we're talking about the authority of a president to do military actions, which I've just laid out that they can do. So the planes went over there, they dropped the bombs, and then they came back. Now, it was very precise, and within 30 minutes of the actions, you already had people in Congress talking about if the president even had the power to do that without their consent. According to the Constitution, the president can do that. And honestly, I'm sure that the administration had to get together with their legal team before they took the military action. And for them to have to do that, that's what I think the media should be focused on is all of these layers that help out our adversaries because how can the president, any president, keep anything a secret when it's being scrutinized by several different entities? So after the attack, they do their assessment. Now, the reason that I'm saying assessment is because when the United States does military actions against other countries, there is analysis. I can assure you that the administration didn't wake up one day and say, "Oh, okay, well, they're not doing what we want them to do. Let's plan an airstrike against them or a military action." They've been analyzing data. Now, the one thing that after I was in the military that I think would be important is if a president and even Congress could lay out more concrete facts because you can't convince people if you don't if all of the information is not presented. So, and I'm saying that because that's why the Constitution gives the president that kind of power, because they know what's going on. Now, some in Congress do too, but that's only if they're part of the committee or if they bring them all together for a crisis and then they give them the information. That's why when you have your local congressperson making comments, you're not even sure if they have all of the details. So that's how come president has all of the information, and I just wish that they could just lay it out. Hey, we saw convoys of equipment going to these sites. We saw stuff leaving. It went over here, and all of those things. Because again, that would help you form your opinion. So that is the only credible reporting that I wish that the media would focus on. Now, that leads into the press. The press has freedom of speech, and over the years, that can get us into trouble. Don't you think that our adversaries are watching TV and seeing every action that we are doing? We have to do it that way because Congress has to have oversight. And apparently, the mass media has to have oversight too, because any administration is spending most of their time trying to convince them why they've done it. And with the press, at least, they don't have security clearances, so they can't show them the details that would scare you and like, yeah, they should have done this action a long time ago. Now, I wanted to point out some of the past presidents' decisions. Did you know, and I'll start with a recent one, President Obama. So he increased the use of drone strikes, particularly in Pakistan, targeting suspected terrorists. He did that. Did he get a lot of flack for it? Don't know. I don't think that he did. Intervention against ISIL. Authorized military action against ISIL in Syria and Iraq, including airstrikes and the deployment of special forces. Now, blend that together for a second. If you have to debate with Congress and it becomes public knowledge, there is no surprise for your adversary. That's why the president can act on that intelligence and then tell Congress. That's what the framers intended, because they knew only the faces change in the world, not what the humans are actually doing or debating, and if you want to use the word argue. So a president has to have that power, and I wish that the mass media entities would explain that to the American people better, because a president is looking out for the best interests of the country. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Let me know what you think.